1,000 of them would die. The legacy of what happened on December 7th still haunts us today. In the first images from inside the U.S.S. Arizona, an underwater cemetery that's also an ecological time bomb. In the search for a top-secret Japanese submarine that was sunk about an hour before the attack began.
The submarine's heading north, starting to dive.
And in the quest to learn what really happened that day. And most of all, it still lives on in the memories of the men who were there when everything changed.
Just a young kid when this happened. And I've lived through it. I lost a lot of my friends.
I reached down to try to help him. Oh, Kimo!
But I hope it never happens again. Nobody will ever know what it was like, except somebody that was actually there.
They never had a chance. They didn't know what was coming. Nobody knew about it. They never woke up.
This is the story of a day when the history of the world took an unexpected turn at a sleepy little port in Hawaii called Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in the first summer of the new millennium. 60 years ago, on this island, a battle was fought. Perhaps the most one-sided battle in American history. It plunged the United States into war, and in the space of a little more than 2 hours, took the lives of 2,400 Americans. Ever since that day, Pearl Harbor has been a place of pilgrimage. Many of the men who lived through the attack have returned at least once to remember what happened and to pay their respects to friends who didn't make it.
We remember December 7th, 1941, when so many gave the last devotion of their efforts.
Well, it was kind of hard, yes, I'll admit it, because I couldn't do anything that the other guys could. I was only 5'3" and weighed 125 pounds. My battle station was a number 2 loader on a 5-inch gun, and I couldn't even pick up the shells that had to be put in the gun.
How can this ever happen? One of the strongest navies in the world, and we're sitting here with our pants down. We got caught, period.
It was one of the best assignments in the Navy. A sailor joining the Pacific Fleet in Hawaii could expect warm air, lots of sunshine, and plenty of things to do on shore leave. In the Atlantic theater, things were different. Europe had been at war for more than 2 years. Hitler's soldiers occupied Paris. London was being blitzed by Nazi bombs. For sailors stationed in the Pacific, there was only one threat on the horizon. Yet most Americans knew next to nothing about the country or its people, who were thought to be short and nearsighted. Quaint little people ruled by an old-fashioned emperor. In reality, Japan was a modern military power that had signed a pact with Nazi Germany. Japanese troops brutally occupied parts of China and were poised to move against other neighbors. But the United States Pacific Fleet stood in the way, and early in 1941, the Japanese military decided to do something about that.
Why would Japan want to go to war with the United States? What Japan wanted was the oil fields in the Dutch East Indies. What they wanted was the tin and the rubber out of Malaya. They wanted the Philippines because of its strategic location. Nobody thought that they would ever come out to Pearl Harbor. That's how you achieve surprise in war. You attack where nobody expects it.
It was the brainchild of a 57-year-old Japanese admiral named Isoroku Yamamoto. Yamamoto decided to strike the U.S. fleet at its home base, at anchor in the cramped, shallow harbor near Honolulu.
For Yamamoto, he had studied in the United States. He had gone to Harvard. He knew what the Americans were like. And he said at one point, I don't care if we march troops down Pennsylvania Avenue, we're not going to conquer the United States. He planned the attack with the idea that if we're going to have any chance of winning this war, we've got to destroy the American fleet. And that'll give us 6 months to run wild in the Southwest Pacific. And we can build up a defensive barrier that will be very difficult for the Americans to crack. And at some point, they're going to say, we quit. You keep your gains.
In the spring of 1941, planning for the attack began in earnest, although only a handful of Japanese officers knew about it. A talented pilot named Minoru Genda was given the task of figuring out how to inflict maximum damage on the American fleet, especially its battleships and carriers, in a surprise attack from the air. Genda decided that a combination of bombs and torpedoes modified to operate in shallow waters would have the best chance of success. Late that summer and into the fall, Japanese pilots trained for their top-secret mission. They rehearsed the low-altitude attack angles they would need over the harbor. They practiced strafing runs over and over. By fall, Yamamoto's plan had evolved into a mammoth undertaking that would require 6 carriers, more than 350 airplanes, and almost as an afterthought, 5 midget submarines. Those 5 midget submarines played a curious and little-known part in the attack, and an expedition is getting underway in Honolulu to learn more. One of the tiny subs almost cost Japan the critical element of surprise.
And there's only 2 outliers.
And that's
Target
the one
32,
undersea explorer
Target
Robert
16.
Ballard is hoping to find.
To the east.
For the man who found the
And all
Titanic
of a sudden
and the
he's
Bismarck,
attacked
this search represents a
right
unique
in the
challenge.
neck of the woods.
It's one of the smallest ships Ballard's ever looked for, and no one really knows where it sank.
How are you? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Joining him will be a man who was part of the submarine task force 6 decades ago, Kichiji Dewa. The midget sub they'll be looking for was sunk by an American destroyer well before the attack began and could have alerted American forces, but did not.
So, gentlemen, I'd like to introduce some colleagues here.
Good morning, sir.
Will Lehner and Russ Reitz were there when it happened.
Glad that we can be friends. Glad that we can be friends.
For Ballard, The expedition offers an opportunity to clear up a common misconception.
Well, I think most people think that the first shot was fired with the Japanese as they swooped over the Folly and descended on our sleeping fleet that Sunday morning. But in fact, the first shot was fired out here, and it was fired by a U.S. destroyer.
Not only was it the first shots fired by America in the war, this should have alerted us to that something was going on. I find it incredibly ironic that the attack and sinking of this Japanese submarine an hour before the planes arrived did not alert us. And I just find that to be amazing.
Ballard's tight schedule only allows him 2 weeks for the mission, sponsored by National Geographic. But the search area isn't too large, and he does have the right equipment. Now, all he needs is a little luck.
We got to get it out.
From the Titanic to Roman wrecks, Ballard has relied as much on instinct as science to find lost ships. But now that rare combination of luck and skill may not be enough. We'll be back with more in a moment.
Tomorrow the sun will rise and the stars will fade. Routines will begin and routines will end. And predators will hunt their prey and prey will outrun their predators. A new language will be learned. An old language will be forgotten. There will be breakthroughs, and there will be blunders. And there will be more of everything, and there will be less. The sun will rise tomorrow on a place far different than the world today. Every day on the new National Geographic Channel.
NBC's presentation of Pearl Harbor, Legacy of Attack, is being sponsored in part by Best Western, the world's largest hotel chain.
Just about anywhere on Earth you want to go, you'll find a Best Western. After all, we're the largest hotel chain in the world. Over 4,000 hotels in over 80 countries, all inviting you to get a good night's sleep. Best Western, the world's largest hotel chain. Call 1-800-WESTERN or visit bestwestern.com.
Summer must be here. Time for the JCPenney Memorial Day sale with 20 to 50% savings on everything for summer. Plus, take an extra 10% off with your Pennies card. It's all inside. Summer's on. JCPenney.
Here's something new from Pledge.
Pledge Grab It, a dry dusting mitt.
Dusting gloves. Oh, I can't wait to try this.
This is a good invention. See, there's little areas here that haven't been done in a while.
Go in every little tiny groove.
Okay, that's a lot easier.
Wonderful. The glove gets into every little ridge. This is very easy to get to the crevices.
This grabs it, holds it there.
Works like a magnet. It's a thumbs up, definitely.
Grab it! New Pledge Grab It dry dusting mitts. S.E. Johnson, a family company.
Own the original Pearl Harbor epic. Tora, Tora, Tora. Now available on video and DVD.
I've got a client, a single woman who's 59 years old. She'd planned to retire at 62. I figured out that with a combination of annuities, she could do it 3 years sooner. To give somebody an extra 3 years of freedom to do whatever they want, that's a great feeling. You're in good hands with Allstate. Mine.
Crazy about seafood? Try one of our favorite creations, lobster, scallops, and shrimp. Now with a complimentary shrimp cocktail. Red Lobster. Go overboard.
Oh, yes! Yes! She's got
organic experience.
You've never had one?
I love herbal essences, but I need intense conditioning.
Honey, meet your new best friend.
New Herbal Essences Intensive Blends. Creamier, vitamin enriched. Improves hair's condition up to 85%.
It's our first time.
New Herbal Essences Intensive Blends.
Guys, the bottle says repeat.
Thousands of people will win. Great prizes, new cars, and millions of Advantage miles. Playing NBC's trivia game, NBC IQ. All you need to play is a free QTV kit from Radio Shack. Then watch NBC and play NBC IQ. Find out how at any Radio Shack or NBCI.com.
The Bucks won a hard-nosed battle to grab the upper hand. Now, can Allen Iverson recover from injury and help the Sixers tie the series? Monday, 5 Eastern, NBC.
This summer, it's another new comedy on NBC Tuesday. This is Kristen, small-town girl.
Yoo-hoo!
Here's Tommy, big city wheeler dealer.
He's a guy who can't take no for an answer.
Now she works for him. Looks like big city boys met his greatest challenge.
Every woman who went before her went for Tommy the bad boy. This one is weird. Virtue makes her hot.
Kristen, after an early Frasier at 8/7 Central, 1 week from Tuesday.
Pearl Harbor, Legacy of Attack, continues now on NBC.
November 26, 1941. The Japanese Armada slipped out of port and headed east through wintry seas. 6 carriers were grouped at the center of the formation, surrounded by a protective ring of cruisers, battleships, and destroyers. Some 30 ships in all. Because the success of the mission rested on taking the Americans totally by surprise, their route would take them well north of commercial shipping lanes. If another ship spotted them, the mission would be in jeopardy and possibly called off. Strict radio silence was maintained at all times as the attack force moved into position, while far to the south, 5 Japanese submarines were already closing in on the island of Oahu. Each mother sub, as it was called, carried 1 midget submarine lashed to its afterdeck. Together, they made up the most controversial element of the strike force.
The Japanese wanted to put everything that they had into this attack, and they had midget submarines. And so let's use them, was Yamamoto's decision. Now, there were people in the Japanese high command that objected strongly to that. Don't bring submarines into Pearl Harbor. In the first place, they're not going to get in. In the second place, they're not going to do much damage if they do. And in the third place, and by far more important, that's going to tip off the Americans. An attack is coming, and it's going to put the Americans up in general quarters all across Pearl Harbor and all across Hawaii. So don't use them.
But they did use them. Each midget sub would carry a 2-man crew into battle. 10 hand-picked, highly trained young men who were prepared to die for their country. On the night before the attack, they would penetrate Pearl Harbor, wait on the bottom for the planes to strike, then fire their 2 torpedoes at any large ship in their range. If circumstances permitted, they would try to leave the harbor and rendezvous with the mother subs. But no one really expected the submariners to return.
They were young, they were enthusiastic, they were courageous, they were ready to go out and die for the Emperor, and it was a suicide mission. Nobody said that quite that way, but that's what it was, a suicide mission. And these guys were eager for it.
当時の我々の気持ちとしてはですね、悲壮な感じいうのはありませんね。
There was no sense of impending tragedy. Everyone felt that we were simply carrying out our duty by taking part in military action, though I felt that they might never make it back.
Day one of the search, about 2 miles outside the narrow channel that leads into Pearl Harbor. It was here, somewhere, that a destroyer called the U.S.S. Ward was patrolling in the early hours of December 7th.
I was thinking that we were a little more that way, but Russ says no, we were a little bit this way.
Yeah.
But we were.
Well, then you average those two, right?
It's the history that tells you what you need to know. And so you have to steep yourself in history, and you have to read all sorts of sources because a lot of history is conflicting. One book will say one thing, one book will say another thing, and so you have to find out, well, what do we all agree upon, and where is the uncertainty? Here the uncertainty was, where were they exactly when the attack took place?
Coming in from another direction. And all of the historical databases. Well, you know, after the war, and in fact during the war, this became a dumping site. And our biggest fear is that they dump something right on top of what we're looking for. So basically what you have down here is a museum of World War II. We don't know what the currents are going to be like. We don't know what the visibility is going to be like. We don't know how the ship's going to perform. So today is a big learning curve. Day one of our expedition.
Ballard decides the work will go faster if he adds another machine to the mix. A remotely operated vehicle called Little Herc.
Well, it's the imaging ROV. It moves very rapidly. We can cover a lot of ground quick and see a lot of targets quick. So it's just a good way to go.
Little Herc is tethered behind a bulkier imaging system called Argus, and the two vehicles descend to 600 feet. In the control room, the team gets its first glimpse of the sea floor.
There's, what's this coming up, the cylinder? Is that a torpedo? No. Piece of pipe.
This is really exciting. Every little thing looks like part of it.
Well, it looks like these are depth charges. There's a whole bunch of them. There's another one.
As the first few days of the search come to an end, they've seen a lot of debris and not much else. Saturday night, December 6th, 1941. Sailors on shore leave filled the bars on Hotel Street in Honolulu. The usual Saturday night crowd gathered for dinner and dancing. At Hickam Field, the airplanes were parked wingtip to wingtip. And in the harbor, the warships of the Pacific Fleet prepared for the night. California, Oklahoma, Maryland, Tennessee, West Virginia, Arizona, Nevada. The last day of peace in the United States was coming to an end.
Pearl Harbor, Legacy of Attack will continue on NBC.
Okay, so you're set up with total choice programming, and sir, I also hooked up the NFL Sunday ticket subscription you signed up for.
That's for her.
Oh, so you've also got Fox Sports Net. You get your regional sports.
College basketball?
ESPN Full Court.
What about racing?
Horses.
Stock cars.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now get free professional installation when you buy a DirecTV system and sign up for any DirecTV programming package.
It was over in 2 hours, and yet in a brief moment, a nation lost its innocence. We had no choice but to walk forward, for from the ashes of Pearl Harbor rose a spirit so strong that defeat was no longer an option. It is to those who carried this spirit we dedicate the G.I. Joe Pearl Harbor collection. Authentically recreated, it will stand as a proud reminder of a day that changed the world forever.
Get a jump on the big Memorial Day weekend sale at Sears for big savings on big brands. Plus, get 0% till January 2002 on all home appliances, TVs, and camcorders when you use your Sears card. It doesn't get any bigger than this, only through Monday at Sears.
Come on, let's go.
Sweetie, I'm sorry. I can't stand the line. We're going to miss our flight. Well, I wish you could go too. Yes, I know how much you love Walt Disney World, but we can't take you with us this time. Well, for one thing, I don't think your wife and children would appreciate it.
Okay. If you think a Walt Disney World vacation isn't the same without the kids, you're absolutely right. Call 1407-WDisney and make the dream come true.
We're here at the courthouse where a protest rally is being held to free the presbyopic sick who were arrested for an incident at a local bookstore where they were protesting their right to see better.
Thoughtless people call it middle-aged sight. The medical term is presbyopia.
Free the presbyopic sick!
Non-dairy, right? With the new eyeglass lenses from Verilux, you see near, far, and everything in between. Technologically, nothing else comes close.
We want freedom.
They want to see the way they were meant to see. Is that too much to ask?
Near, far, and in between, we want freedom.
The completely redesigned Chrysler minivans now come equipped with yet another standard feature. Because Consumers Digest named Voyager a Best Buy, and AMCI called Town & Country the best minivan ever. Now get a $2,000 cash allowance on Chrysler minivans. So get to your Chrysler dealer today, because with award-winning values like these, you'll be the one with something to brag about.
When Dixie's going all out, gonna save you more.
For your holiday cookout, Sanderson Farms fresh split fryer breasts are 99 cents a pound. Select lean and meaty pork spare ribs are only $1.59 a pound. Pick up Harvest fresh sweet yellow corn, 8 ears for $1.68. And don't miss our big sale on Nabisco snack crackers and cookies, $1.99 each.
When Dixie's going all out for the great outdoors.
America's #1 furniture company does it again. Rooms to Go brings you the latest looks at unbeatable prices. Yours with no money down, no payments, and no interest until January 2003. Not 2002, January 2003. No interest adding up, no penalties, no interest, period. Rooms to Go pays the interest for you until January 2003. Get great looks at great prices and no payments until January 2003. No wonder Rooms to Go is #1.
There's a big herd headed your way, and it's a great time to rope one in. It's the big Montana Roundup. Your Pontiac dealer has a whole corral of new Montanas.
And now, get $2,000 cash back or 0.9% APR for up to 60 months on a 2001 Montana. Other restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Stop by your Pontiac dealer for the big Montana Roundup and kick up some dust with a new Montana of your own.
News Channel 2, where the news comes first.
Just outside of Pearl Harbor, the secret Japanese submarines are poised, ready for action. If they fail, they could inadvertently alert the American forces that an attack is coming. The stakes could not be higher as the battle draws near. December 7th, 1941, a few minutes after midnight. 10 miles away from the mouth of Pearl Harbor, the 5 mother submarines prepared to launch the midgets. The Japanese crews could see the lights on Waikiki and make out strains of jazz when the wind shifted. Each of the submariners wrote a letter to his parents. Sadamu Kamita was a quiet mountain boy who loved baseball.
Forgive this negligent son for not writing these long months. We are soon to be dispatched to regions unknown. Should anything happen to me, do not grieve or mourn. Should I fail to write, do not be alarmed. For it means I am well and discharging my duties faithfully. Goodbye.
クルーを出港する前の晩にですね。
The night before they left, Commander Yokoyama, his crewman Kamita, and I went to the officers' mess that normally enlisted men couldn't enter. We ate a farewell dinner. Later, there was a small party in the officers' wardroom.
Dewa watched his friends enter the midget sub and spoke to Yokoyama one last time over a phone link.
I said something like, take care to them. I didn't say anything special, just words of parting said on the phone, very normal. Even though the fact that they wouldn't return was a foregone conclusion, we didn't talk about it.
The midget carried by Dewa submarine was the first to leave, released into the water around 1 a.m. By 3 a.m., all the midgets were making their way toward the harbor, except the one skippered by Ensign Sakamaki. He was having trouble with his gyroscope. Without it, he'd have to take his bearings on the surface and risk being spotted by an American ship.
You're sneaking into a harbor, and you don't want to trip the alarm and let the Americans know that the war has begun. And so you must be extremely nervous. You've got to be just on pins and needles.
And then, the first missed opportunity for the Americans. At 3:42 a.m., an officer on board the minesweeper Condor spotted a periscope in the water 50 yards off the port bow. Condor alerted the Ward, patrolling the approaches to Pearl Harbor.
Remember about 3:30 or so, the skipper called general quarters, about 3:20, 3:30. I don't remember the exact time, but remember that?
I remember that.
And we thought, what kind of a skipper is this? He just came aboard, and now we got general quarters, and he's going to start drilling us. And we thought, remember, we thought
it was just a drill.
That skipper is going to be a tough one to live with. But he was one of the best skippers we ever had, remember?
But the Ward's new skipper misunderstood the message and went to look in the wrong place. The one thing Japanese planners feared most had occurred. 4 hours before the attack, one of their ships had been spotted, and nothing happened. Sunday, December 7th, around dawn. Aboard the 6 aircraft carriers, the pilots and planes of the first wave began to assemble. Yamamoto's plan called for 2 distinct waves of attack, the first to reach Honolulu at about 8 a.m., the second to follow within the hour. It meant getting the right aircraft into the air at the right time. Each wave would take about 15 minutes to launch. The first to go were 43 Mitsubishi fighters armed with machine guns and cannon, the dreaded Zeros. Then, 49 Nakajima bombers, Kates, each carrying a single 1,760-pound armor-piercing bomb. 51 Aichi dive bombers were next to leave, the Vals. And finally, another 40 Kates carrying specially modified torpedoes. At about 6:20 a.m., the planes formed up and headed south. At almost the same time the first wave turned toward Oahu, the U.S. Navy got its second report of intruders near the harbor. At 6:30 a.m., a lookout on the freighter Antares spotted another submarine periscope, then a conning tower. Once again, the Ward raced to investigate. And this time, the destroyer found what she was looking for.
The submarine started to surface, and I'm midships right at the rail. And see, when I see this thing start to surface, I thought, wow, what's this?
Then the skipper took after this submarine. And of course, we didn't know it at the time, but later on, he told us that his first thought was ramming it. But he said, this is my first ship, and I don't want to ruin it.
And then all of a sudden, number 1 gun fired, and they missed because their elevation wasn't great enough, but we were that close. And then number 3 gun fired, and I saw the splash, the water line of the conning tower as the shell hit the conning tower.
It must have rang like a bell. I mean, just must have been an incredible explosion that went off right next to their head. I mean, remember, the skipper is standing in the conning tower, and the shell hit the conning tower. You would think he must have died instantly. Or did he? Because they then began to dive, so clearly they weren't dead. And they then began to dive, and no sooner did they dive than the depth charge was going.
Exploded, and I didn't see the submarine as it came up, but I'm told that it came up, rolled over, and then went back down again.
After the depth charges that we dropped, I can't see any way it could have gotten away from us.
At 6:51 a.m., Skipper William Outerbridge of the Ward radioed headquarters that he had seen and fired upon an unidentified submarine. He repeated the message 2 minutes later. At headquarters, the Ward's terse report slowly worked its way up the chain of command. For the second time that morning, the Japanese had tripped the alarm. And for the second time that morning, nothing happened. Day 10 of Ballard's search, and still no sign of what they're looking for.
And that was
we were
in here.
The submarine was coming this way, and we were coming this way.
Why was this one on the surface?
Maybe he's not sure, but maybe the passenger in the small submarine, they are looking, and then they make sure the position.
So far, Ballard has covered about 2 square miles of seabed in an area called the Flats, where the Ward was patrolling. So far, they've seen a lot of debris, but the missing sub has eluded them. Each time they pick up a promising target on sonar, it turns out to be something else. A crumpled seaplane used by the Navy in the late 20s and 30s. A Grumman Hellcat fighter. Then, part of a similar type of midget sub, captured later in the war, and then dumped. And finally, something that seems to have treads.
You think so? Yeah, it's a tank. A tracked vehicle. Well, let's work it over. Yeah, look.
Another day's search is coming to an end without results.
Oh, Robert's not out in the flats, so the only place left is up against the wall.
Yeah.
Yep. So tomorrow we'll come out with the 2 subs and take it right in next to the channel and look at the base of the wall, which we couldn't do with these vehicles.
Good.
They've used up most of their allotted 2 weeks with nothing to show for it. For Bob Ballard and his team, time is running out.
Pearl Harbor, Legacy of Attack will continue on NBC.
Around here, it's not every day we all get together.
We're making them dinner. Come on, you guys.
But when we do, it's great that the folks at Kraft make Italian.
I love this stuff.
Because it's the one thing we agree on. That way, we can talk about what's on our minds instead of what's on our plates.
Whose idea was this?
Mikhail has a boyfriend.
I guess they just know what we like.
A what?
He's a senior.
He's a senior?
Around here, the dressing is Kraft. Try new ranch and Caesar bacon dressings made with Oscar Mayer bacon.
I can take pain, but not sunscreen that runs into my eyes and stings.
Coppertone Sports Sunscreen, ultra sweat-proof.
I can take any height, but not sunscreen that affects my grip.
Coppertone Sport, ultra dry. Coppertone Sport, the #1 preferred sports sunscreen.
Best crackers in the world can do this in 60 minutes. I need someone who can do it in 60 seconds. Go!
This summer, you can run, you can drive, you can fly.
This is now an aerial pursuit.
Because on June 8th, one word will get you where you need to go. From the producer of The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Swordfish, rated R. Starts Friday, June 8th in theater near you.
Feeling a little nervous about getting on the bus?
Yeah, I don't want to go.
You have to go to school.
I don't know if I want to go, though.
That'll be
I
fun.
want to hang out with you.
Oh, girls' first day. Be nice. First days are always a little scary.
I'm going to miss you.
It's gonna be a bride.
Chevy Malibu. It's dependable, just like you. Chevy Malibu. We'll be there.
What will it take for you to talk to your doctor about Zocor?
Zocor, be there.
2 Coors Lights?
Ah, football, sweet. This game's gonna be played in the air. Ah, Coors Light, I'm on for dude. Wasn't ready for one. Look at that, nickelback offense, right on. Calls for a little Rocky Mountain napkin. Ah, 3rd and 11, let's get things downfield. What are they doing? Oh, we huddling up? Not the face, not the hair.
Mondays at 9, 8 Central, it's Weakest Link.
You got another question, Ralph.
Is there any beginning to your knowledge?
You really don't know what you're doing.
Who left their brains at home?
And all the other players hate you.
Pathetic.
You're the weakest link. Weakest link. You're super weekend.
Weakest Link, NBC Mondays at 9, 8 Central.
Is there a village that needs its idiot back?
You're the weakest link. Weakest link. You're Lincoln's weekend.
You are the weakest link.
Every NBC Monday, 6 real people will face 3 terrifying challenges in a battle of sheer nerve.
These are not your friends. These are your opponents.
They play against their worst fears and against each other.
Whoa, look at this. How many of you want to see Jeanette eat it bad? You think anybody's gonna quit?
I'm gonna try to make them.
This is not the Boy Scouts.
Oh, my God!
Fear Factor, NBC Mondays in 3 weeks.
On airfields such as this one, American warplanes are parked in neat rows, as if for the convenience of the Japanese attackers. The U.S. early warning system is about to detect something ominous, but it's Sunday morning, and no one is paying much attention. December 7th, 1941, 7 a.m. A mobile radar station on the northwest coast of Oahu picked up the signal of a massive number of aircraft approaching the island from the north. They were less than 140 miles away, moving at 180 miles an hour. A telephone call went immediately to the information center in Honolulu, 40 miles to the southeast. The call was routed to a private named McDonald, who passed it on to a Lieutenant Tyler, who had just been assigned to the job. Tyler told the radar operators not to worry about it. In his mind, it was just a squadron of American B-17s due in from the mainland. For the 3rd time that day, the Japanese had tripped the alarm. And for the 3rd time, no one seemed to notice. It was 7:15 a.m. At 7:40 a.m., the first wave of airplanes reached the coast of Oahu, guided by the signal from a Honolulu radio station. The bombers and torpedo planes were at 9,000 feet. 5,000 feet above them, the Zeros flew cover. The first wave began to break up into their attack formations. One to fly inland toward Wheeler Airfield. The other to move down the western coast to Pearl Harbor. They were the only planes in the sky. There was no sign whatsoever that the Americans knew they were about to be attacked. At 7:50 a.m., the first wave reached Pearl Harbor. Among their first targets, Hickam Airfield and the Naval Air Base on Ford Island. Clarence Miner was an airman stationed on Ford Island.
After all that noise on the tin roof up there and stuff were popping around, I looked up and I saw this airplane come diving down and that big meatball, and I thought, oh. And then all hell all over the place was breaking loose. Bombs dropping, machine guns firing. And like I said, the things are so darn low you can throw rocks at them.
Ralph Lindenmeyer was also on Ford Island.
7:55 in the morning, an explosion woke us up. I looked up at the clock when I first heard the explosion and felt it, and I said, the Japs are here. And when I looked out the window, the plane came over and it saw the meatball on the fuselage and the wings, and I could look into the pilot's face and I could almost see him grinning.
Anchored on Pier 1010 was the utility vessel Argonne, where 19-year-old Charles Christensen worked in the machine shop.
I thought, oh, that was a bad explosion. I wonder what happened. And I opened the porthole up, and I stuck my head right out there, you know, and oh, boy, was there ever a fire on Ford Island. I thought, oh, my goodness, something is really bad blowing up over there.
It took a while for sailors in the ships at anchor to comprehend what was happening. Bert Davis, a machinist mate on the U.S.S. Selfridge, thought it was some kind of readiness drill.
That's where I was standing when the planes came in. I was standing there shining my shoes. And I saw these planes coming in. Came right straight across where the Raleigh was. And I thought to myself, what in the hell is the Army doing holding maneuvers on a day like this?
While the dive bombers hammered the airfields, the torpedo planes descended to an altitude of a few dozen feet and took dead aim at Battleship Row. Aboard the Argonne, Charles Christensen had a perfect view of the first torpedo runs.
He's coming in almost straight across me at a slight angle across, and he's low enough that he's maybe 30 feet off of the water, which puts him maybe eye level or a little more from me, and I can see the man's face. He's got his helmet on, he's got his goggles on, and he's looking over the side, and when he straightened that plane out, leveled it out, he dropped that torpedo, and I thought, oh my God, look at that. And that torpedo just went as straight for the Oklahoma as it could go.
This photo, taken from a Japanese plane, shows Battleship Row just after the attack began. The ripples emanating outward are the result of multiple torpedo strikes. George Smith was below deck on the battleship Oklahoma when General Porter sounded.
Then all of a sudden the guy come over to the loudspeaker, "There's just no move it." And then we got a torpedo. I was really so scared I didn't know what the hell was going on.
The Oklahoma started to capsize almost immediately.
When they said abandoned ship, the only way we could get out was through the Kingsville window. We went out there, and the ship was rolling on top of us. Maybe we jumped about 5 feet into the water, which wasn't far. But when you turn around and see this thing coming on top of you, you swim for all you can swim and as fast as you can swim. Because we know we had to get around the big gun turrets. They were coming over next on us.
It went over so fast, I just was sure, I didn't know, but I was sure they were trapped inside of that because it just rolled right on over, and there it was, keel up.
George Smith had just been released from the Oklahoma's brig for going ashore without leave, and it saved his life.
And when the ship got the torpedo, the brig was in the carpenter shop on board ship. And when the torpedo hit, it broke the carpenter's workbench loose, pinned the guard against the wall, the bulkhead, and he couldn't release the other men that were in the brig, and they all drowned.
On the far side of Ford Island, the old battleship Utah also got hit a few minutes before 8. Clark Simmons worked on the Utah as a mess attendant.
And as I looked out the port, I saw a plane making a run on the Utah. And as she dropped the torpedo, the wing dipped, and then he straightened up, and the torpedo hit it, and another one right behind it did the same thing. And we knew that it was just a matter of time before the ship was going to sink. And actually it took 8 minutes. In 8 minutes, the ship was history. She had turned turtle in 8 minutes. As the line began to part, came over the side and began to swim toward Fort Island. And as we were swimming, they were machine gunning us from both directions, from this direction, and when they came from Pearl City over here, from that direction also. I saw fellas yelling and screaming. Some of the fellas in the water was asking for help. It was so chaotic. I really didn't know what was going on.
But the biggest blow was yet to come. Lying inboard of the repair ship Vestal was the battleship Arizona. High overhead, a Cape released an armor-piercing bomb that drifted down toward the Arizona's number 2 gun turret. It was about 10 minutes after 8. A motion picture camera captured the moment of impact. In that instant, more than 1,000 crewmen died. Stu Headley was on the West Virginia, a few hundred feet away.
One gigantic explosion. Now, when we fired the 16-inch, you're inside, it sounds like thunder up in the distance. But this didn't sound like no thunder. This was one gigantic explosion. The stern of our ship lifted out of the water, but at the same time we were getting hit with torpedoes, we were starting to list. But we saw about 32 men flying through the air from the Arizona.
Oil from the fully fueled Arizona began to spread and catch fire. The heat was so intense, even sailors on nearby ships were threatened.
So Crossan and I stripped right down to our undershorts and jumped in and swam underwater. Now, we're not underwater swimmers, but we swam underwater that day because that was the hottest breath of air we ever breathed, because that was the oil from the Arizona that was ablaze.
The bomb had penetrated Arizona's forward magazine and ignited more than 1 million pounds of gunpowder. Those who were still alive found themselves in an inferno.
They were in this oil that was on fire. They were trying to swim out of it. They'd come up and trying to get their breath. Their eyes, the white of their eyes was just as red as they can be. I can just see it today. The skin on their face was just falling off. And on top of that, all of this oil, and they were just drenched in oil.
Bert Davis went out in a whaleboat to pick up survivors.
Oh, God, it was horrible. Just one fella started to reach up to try to get a hold of the gunnel on the boat from the outside, and I reached down to try to help him, and I took him by the arm, and as I tried to lift like that, the skin all came off. He was dead by the time we got him in.
"35 minutes after the attack began, the first wave flew away, leaving behind more than 1,000 dead American sailors, many of them teenagers, caught below deck when Arizona exploded and sank. For the personal recollections of the Pearl Harbor survivors and an interactive map of the battle, log on to nationalgeographic.com.
Pearl Harbor, Legacy of Attack will return on NBC.
You'd try anything to get some relief from your nasal allergy symptoms. But before you change your life, make an easier change. Ask your doctor about Flonase. Multi-symptom Flonase relieves all these nasal allergy symptoms: sneezing, itchy, runny nose, and congestion. Multi-symptom Flonase once a day relieves them all day and night. For best results, use daily. Side effects are generally mild and may include headache, nosebleed, or sore throat. Call to learn more. So before you change your life, make an easier change. Ask your doctor about multi-symptom Flonase. When you get it all it takes is Flonase.
We quit using toothpaste.
Hey, your whole mouth needs protecting.
Not just your teeth.
Triple protection Aquafresh does it all. It's 3 different toothpastes in one.
Aquafresh works as hard as we do.
It's the whole mouth paste.
Right now, during Kia's Great May Sales event, you get more for less. Like the Kia Optima. It comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and is available with more features. A V6 engine, dual front and seat-mounted side airbags, and leather interior. All this for a whole lot less. Because right now, we're offering 1.9% financing, which means the more you wait, the less chance you'll have of getting a great deal during Kia's Great May Sales event. Ends May 31st.
C-Dot. C-Dot run. See where Dot gets all her energy.
I love this bed.
Sealy Posturepedic. We support you night and day.
Summer must be here. Time for the JCPenney Memorial Day sale with 20 to 50% savings on everything for summer. Plus, take an extra 10% off with your Pennies card. It's all inside. Summer's on. JCPenney.
Oh, a new patient. How you doing? I get a lot of new patients with fleas or ticks. Poor baby. Even though their owners thought they protected them. Because only one product protects cats and dogs against fleas and ticks. New Frontline Plus. It's the best. Now it provides complete flea protection. And it's the only one that also kills ticks, including the ones that carry Lyme disease. Oh, that's cute.
New Frontline Plus. For fleas and ticks, Frontline is the veterinarian's #1 choice.
Oh, hello.
A 9-car pileup shuts down the turnpike this morning after smoke from 3 fires covers central Florida. Hello, I'm Amanda Ober. Also, lifeguards get their work out. Over 160 people have to be rescued. And police in Britain unable to control an outbreak of racial riots. Those stories at 11.
You're watching live Super Doppler 2 radar, only on News Channel 2. A community service of WESH in partnership with your local Lowe's Home Improvement